Good evening, or morning, or afternoon, wherever time it is that you're watching. Thanks for stopping by. I am Jared Johnson, the Jared J. Joining me again today is a guest making his second appearance thus far on the channel. Please join me in welcoming my friend Dillon Jewett.
That's me. Feel very welcome. Thank you, Jared.
His government name's Dillon, but if you know him like I do, he's Diligent Jewett. So we're going to be talking a little bit about the National Football League, kind of doing a preview to the 2025 NFL season. Last year we saw the Kansas City Chiefs attempting to become the first team in history to win 3 consecutive Super Bowls, only to see that effort be thwarted by the Philadelphia Eagles. So what are we going to see this year? Are we going to see a rematch? We're going to see two new teams come into the fold. Are the Chiefs going to be hungrier to come back, and are they going to make it 3 out of 4? These are all possibilities, and that's what we're here to sort out today. So, Dylan, I'm going to start off. I've got about 6 teams that I consider possible threats. And
Okay.
I'm not talking about having a decent season. I'm talking possible Super Bowl contenders. So
Gotcha.
I'll throw these out one at a time. We'll spend a little more time on the serious threat teams, I think. But I'm going to start off with a team that I think's a possible threat, and that's the Denver Broncos. They finished last season 10-7. They did lose to Buffalo in the playoffs. Bo Nix is going into his second season. They re-signed Cortland Sutton. They picked up Evan Ingram and J.K. Dobbins in the offseason. They drafted one of my favorite rookies in this year's draft class, R.J. Harvey. Marvin Mims was looking pretty good at the end of last year. They still got a solid defense anchored by Patrick Surtain. Diligent, what do you see going into this year for Denver?
Yeah, Denver's a good team, and they're a year ahead of schedule too, because last year
Mm-hmm.
they should have not been in the position that they were. Obviously, it was unexpected that Bo Nix would be able to have such a fantastic rookie season, which, in turn, that's what puts them ahead of schedule, is that they have a quarterback that's a lot more developed
Fully exceeded
than they were
expectations,
it
yeah.
100%. And yeah, I mean, this defense is one of the best defenses in the league. You have a quarterback that was able to gain some more weapons this year in Evan Ingram and RJ Harvey and JK Dobbins. And I mean, obviously those aren't household names, but those are a number of guys that can schematically help bring this team offensively to where they need to be, so that you can just get maybe not, the full Sean Payton experience in terms of just dialed up offense, but you're going to get uh a lot of fun packages with Evan Ingram in there, just working a tight
We're
end
waiting
up the
to
field
that type of
vertically.
offense, I think.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think that this is going to be a really good team. Now, would I say that this team is a pure Super Bowl contender? I don't think they're quite there. I do think
Mhm.
that where you categorize them, where it's like, we're not one of these true. I think there's a difference between a true Super Bowl contender, where it's like this team's going to be probably at a conference championship at the
Yeah.
worst,
Yeah.
versus a team that's like, if all things go well, like then they can make it. You're really kind of pushing the threshold, with
Yeah.
some of those teams. I think this is on the latter portion of what I just said, where it's like you got to have a lot of things go right, because we're not just talking about the Broncos competing against, you know, some of these NFC teams. You're talking about they're going to have this gauntlet mode of like, oh, we got to probably beat like the Texans or Bengals round one, and then it's like we got to beat the Bills, in the divisional round. And then it's Chiefs or Ravens, or like that is brutal. And
And don't
I think
forget,
that
they're
they
in the
could,
same division with Kansas City. So they're,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, the chance of winning that division is not very strong. They could make the
exactly,
playoffs as a wild card like they did last year. That wouldn't be surprising. But then
yeah,
they'd have to go through what you're talking about. So
absolutely,
definitely
yeah.
on the
So
outside looking in, but
yeah, I 100%. I think
on
that
the rise.
this team could be an 11-6, 12-5 team, maybe wins one game in the playoffs. That's my
Yeah.
realistic expectation for them, but I could see them making it, I could see them pushing the threshold and maybe making it into the conference championship. And I think that is on the table. I'm not a betting man, but if I was, I wouldn't bet on that. So
And that's pretty much how I see it too. They're a solid team, a lot of room to improve, but they're not quite ready to knock Baltimore, Buffalo, or Kansas City out. At least I don't think so. We'll see.
that's
Next
right.
team I have as a possible threat, Cincinnati Bengals. They finished last season 9-8, failed to make the playoffs. So why do I even think they're a possible threat? Very simple. If Joe Burrow, Jamar R pursue diligently, and T. Higgins all stay healthy, they are deadly. And don't forget Trey Hendrickson and pursue diligently Brown. So they didn't make a lot of changes in the offseason, Diligent. How do you categorize Cincinnati? What do you think about this year?
Oh, I really worry about this
Do we need to end
defense.
it with
Yeah, I really worry about this defense. And you're right. The
yeah, yeah.
offensively, we're looking at honestly,
Deadly.
this could be the best. I mean, it was last year. Uh, it could be the best offense in the league this year. Um,
Problem
I just
is when
really
you have to outscore everybody
exactly. You're
45 to
chasing
38
points.
to win
Yeah,
games, that makes it very tough.
yeah. You're having to chase this. You're having to chase points. You're having to pursue this extremely aggressive foot on the gas pedal type of offensive play style.
Yeah.
Efficiency just goes out the window with this offense. You're not able to just run, 3rd and 4, let's do a little quick out and first down. Run, you're not able to do that. It is these true like almost, Madden 25 style where you're
Yeah.
just having to four verticals down the field and just air it out to one of
And
these,
you're
two
really
elite
banking on
receivers.
you're really banking on these high level superstars, which they have. You're really banking on them playing that way pretty much for 17 games.
Yeah.
Like there's
And
no room
yeah,
for struggles or off weeks. If there's one
100%.
injury to one of those guys, there it goes. So
Exactly. And like what happens when so if we're trying to, the point of this episode is we're trying to identify, which of these teams really stand a chance in the Super Bowl.
yeah,
What happens when the what happens when the Bengals go up against the Ravens in the playoffs? What happens if by some miracle they make it to the Super Bowl and it's the Eagles or the Lions or one of these teams that just these stout like trenches that these teams have, and you are just like, well, we have a couple nice little toys on the boundary with Jamar Chase and T Higgins. We don't have an offensive line, we don't have a defensive line, and right now Trey Hendrickson is still sitting out at this moment. He's begging for a contract, and then I don't know what the situation is if he's going to end up getting out there on the field and playing. I mean, your first round pick, Shamar Stewart, just barely signed his contract.
he
He
almost
doesn't
didn't
even
sign with them.
he
So
doesn't even want to be with all due respect, he doesn't even necessarily want to be with the team right
that seemed
now.
like it. Yeah,
And so it is just this flurry of question marks for the trenches for this team. I can get by with the fact that they have a average backfield with a defensive backfield. They have a pretty decent linebacker core. I can get by with that. I struggle with the fact that this offensive line and this defensive line are just
below
not
average for sure.
where they need to be. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of how I feel. They missed the playoffs last year. If they're all healthy, they're deadly. They can make the playoffs. Even with those weapons, I don't see them going too deep. Now here's another, I guess you could say, intriguing team. Pittsburgh Steelers. They finished last season 10-7, lost to Baltimore in the playoffs. No more Najee Harris. Drafted Caleb Johnson. No more George Pickens. They traded for DeKalin Zacharias Metcalf. And
That's
then the
it.
biggest one to talk about, they let Russell Wilson and Justin Fields walk. You may think that's a good idea. Fine. And they signed Aaron Rodgers. Biggest question for me is Was that a good move? Does Aaron Rodgers have enough left in the tank? Is he good enough? Does he make them a Super Bowl contender? How do you see that playing diligent?
I feel like offensively, the majority of these moves were all very lateral. I don't see a big upgrade from DK to George Pickens. I don't see a big upgrade from Aaron Rodgers to Russell Wilson, and I definitely don't see. Well, I'd say I see a slight upgrade from Caleb Johnson to from Najee Harris
Here's
because
Kevin Johnson.
yeah, I'm a Caleb Johnson fan myself.
He's younger. He's big. He's at yeah.
He's the
I think
same. He's
he's
he's kind of the same type of guy as Najee, just with a little bit more patience, which I think he needs behind this offensive line.
yeah.
Um, I do the area I can see some improvement isn't not necessarily because of personnel, but because of development, and I guess a little bit because of personnel, but offensive line. When I say personnel, I mean the fact that Troy Fautanu is going to be back from injury.
Yeah.
But I really like their center, Zach Frazier. I'm
Oh yeah.
curious if Roderick Jones is finally going to take a jump for them. This is and Troy Fautanu. I really liked him coming out of Washington, so I think this offensive line could be pretty good. But otherwise, like not to mention on the defensive side, you let go of Minka Fitzpatrick. You trade him for Jalen Ramsey. I don't agree with
That's
that
right.
move. And I do find it a little curious, what they're scheming up here. I do think defensively, even with the Minka Fitzpatrick move, they did make enough moves here to make me sit here and be like, this is going to be one of the better defenses in the league. I just question if this methodology of like pure full blown efficiency on offense is going to be enough to get them deep into the playoffs, or if it's just going to be this same thing we've seen for pretty much ever since their last Super Bowl appearance in 2011 against the Packers. Just this same old, okay, we're going to be just above 500, or like we're going to be 9-8, we'll be 10-7, maybe we'll be 11-6, and then it's going to be one and done in the playoffs. That's all I
Yeah,
can
they
see
seem to
from
have
this team.
settled into mediocrity over the last several years, and
Yeah.
that's I don't see much different this year, honestly.
Yeah.
At the end of last season, I will admit Aaron Rodgers showed he still has some in the tank, but I just don't know how much. I'm not overly confident with him. I don't want to get too far off topic, but I would have resigned Justin Fields before I did this. I probably would have been looking to send a late round draft pick for Kirk Cousins. You're kind of rolling the dice either way, but Cousins is at least younger than Rodgers. If he's recovered, if he had the shoulder injury, there's a lot of questions there too. Don't get me wrong, but or I would have just drafted Jackson Dart. Like I would, you're taking chances in all those areas, but I just Rodgers would not have been the guy that I hung my hat on. Sam
Yeah.
Darnold was a free agent. I just think there's other avenues if you were really wanting to compete. But hey,
Yeah.
this guy's a veteran. He's a Hall of Famer, so
Yeah.
okay. But Tomlin's job's probably he's in the hot seat now. As great as he's been, I he this there's a lot of pressure, I think, on him at
Yeah.
this
And
point.
and I will say with Tomlin just really quick, you're absolutely correct. And then on the inverse side of that, it feels like we get the same team out of this. Like we get the same roster, the same personnel every year. It's just with different names. Like Aaron Rodgers, what is all too different with modern Aaron Rodgers and modern Russell Wilson? They're pretty similar players. They work the middle of the field.
Right.
They're efficient quarterbacks who have, a good head on their shoulders in terms of their processing ability. Obviously good leaders that people, these players can rally around. I know Aaron Rodgers has a little bit of a cocky side to him, but he is someone that
A
all these
little
players
bit.
respect him. And it's just, and I mean you can go all the way down the roster and say the same thing. It's like what I said before, Caleb Johnson and Najee Harris. What's the difference? DK Metcalf to George Pickens. I understand that was a lateral move because of finances, because of the numbers that came with it. Because it was pay DK or wait a year, pay George. They wanted to get the deal done now,
Yeah.
and they were like, okay, maybe we can make a slight upgrade here. I just sit here and I'm just like, Mike Tomlin, he doesn't, he's on the hot seat. Absolutely, totally agreed. But then at the same time, I'm just like, when are we going to give him a team that has an actual quarterback, like a quarterback that's not like someone at the end of their career? I
Yeah.
wonder if hopefully that's next year because they'll probably. I mean, I guess we say this every year, but I hope they pursue a quarterback. Shout out Garrett Nussmeier, who I went to high school with. I hope that would be the guy. But
I did
yeah,
not know
I
you
hope they
went to high
pursue
school with
someone.
him. I did not know you went to high school with him.
Yeah. Yeah, I went to
Huh.
high school and he's
Okay.
actually a nice dude too. I'm not like close friends with him or anything,
Yeah.
but I mean just minor conversations here and there and I'll always be able to say that I took his order at Chick-fil-A once when we worked there. And so if he's ever a pro level quarterback, I can say I served him Chick-fil-A once. So
Dude,
hopefully, yeah,
it was your pleasure.
it was my pleasure and now hopefully he'll remember that one day whenever
He might
he's
be thinking
maybe
about
winning
it
a
right
Super Bowl
now.
one day. Yep.
All right, well, I'll go on now to a team in the NFC. I would say is a possible threat. The Los Angeles Rams. They finished last year 10-7. They did lose to the Eagles in the playoffs, but they were the ones that knocked Minnesota out of the playoffs, and they played the Eagles a lot closer than the Commanders and Chiefs did. So, and they got Devontae Adams in the offseason.
Yeah.
Stafford is a year older. He's getting near the end, but he's still there. They still got Kyron Williams, puking nicotine, and they signed Devontae Adams. They got a pretty good young defense. So I would say they're a
That was
possible
a
threat.
great name for Puka Nakua. I love that. I was like, who is he talking about? I was like, who is this?
Nothing against the guy. I just can't resist. I always call him puking nicotine. But how do you feel about them this year? Would you say they're a possible threat?
I would actually. I think they're of the possible threats that we're mentioning. I think they're the top of these, like right on the edge of like true contenders
Mm,
versus and man, I mean, so the Dallas Cowboys are in Oxnard right now, and this week they had practices against the Rams. And
yeah,
so in Oxnard, California is where they do their off-season training, and obviously the Rams aren't too far from there. So the Rams can come over and they do some joint practices, and then they're doing a preseason game actually today, um, when we're recording this. And man, the Rams were oh, they were making things happen. And that's with the fact that Matthew Stafford has missed these practices and they're just
mhm,
moving the ball on the Cowboys. And maybe it's a testament of maybe the Cowboys just aren't in good shape right now. But I don't know, man. This team is really impressive. If Matthew Stafford just can get one more year of just
yeah,
of just border, like not he doesn't need to be prime Matthew Stafford. If he can just be decent version of himself, like
yeah. I was
kind
about
of
to
like
say
last year.
he doesn't even
He just
have to
needs to
be
be
the
like
Matthew
last year.
Stafford that he was when they won the Super
Absolutely.
Bowl, or even when he was playing with
Yeah.
Calvin Johnson. Just play the level that you did
Yeah.
last year, essentially. And I mean, Devontae Adams is getting older, but he's still got a lot of
Oh yeah.
speed and talent. I think he adds a really good element to that offense. So
Yeah.
they could be
100%.
dangerous.
I think that
They
this is going to be a good team. They have a great defense, a very actually a very underrated defense
yeah.
that is one of the better defenses in the league because that front seven is just
Oh yeah.
it's so young and it is very explosive, led by Jared Verse, Byron Young, Kobe Turner, Braden Fisk. These are all guys that they don't get quite the recognition they deserve, but
No,
they're
and they've
good and
only
they've
got
done a good
several
job
years. If
drafting.
they stay healthy, then they can keep playing
Yep.
at this level. So
Yeah.
I could see them maybe challenging to be in the conference championship. We'll see, but
I think similar.
they're
I'd put them
they're on
similar
the
to last year.
cusp.
I'd put
Yeah,
them similar to last year, and I do think that I guess the main reason why I'm like these guys have a chance. I don't think the Lions got much better. I think they were kind of the same team now as they were last year, maybe a little bit worse, arguably. I don't think the Eagles got better because they couldn't financially. They maxed out their roster last year.
yeah.
This year, they actually lost a couple of guys. They're about the same team. So that's why I sit here and I'm like, the Rams did get, slightly better. You also got to factor in all of what they did last year defensively was just a bunch of young guys just flying around. Some of these guys are going to take another step up. I think Jared Verse is going to be starting to get into that, premier edge rusher category or borderline.
Yeah, I think he will too.
And
He's outside of the
yeah,
elite right now, but he's
yeah.
moving. He's moving in on that.
So yeah, this could be a good team who does make a push. I'd say they're probably going to end up very similarly to how things wrapped up last year, where it was divisional rounds, almost got over the hump, one more past the Puka Nakua, and you could have been in the conference championship, and maybe you would
Yeah.
have beaten the Commanders. But I think that's about what we're going to see this year from them again, as long
Well,
as Stafford doesn't just have this massive decline.
yeah. Or if he gets injured, we're having a whole different conversation.
A
But
hundred
anyway,
percent, 100%.
yeah.
I guess
So
injuries aside, though, for most of
yeah,
these.
yeah. We have to say it because anybody could get injured. So with all these
Yeah.
teams, it's barring major injury. So now let's talk about the Minnesota Vikings. Finished last year 14-3, lost to the Rams, and the Rams handled them pretty good, I will say, in the playoffs. Uh, the Vikings, they got most of their core personnel back. They did add Jordan Mason, who I think is a pretty solid running back. Biggest change is Sam Darnold's now with the Seahawks. JJ McCarthy, who was the number 10 pick in last year's draft, who, as of this recording, is yet to take a snap in a regular season NFL game.
Mm.
What difference is that going to make? They still got Kevin O'Connell. They still got arguably the best receiver in the league. TJ Hawkinson is now a year removed from his surgery. He's one of the top tier tight ends. A
Yeah.
lot of questions, I think, here because of McCarthy, but how do you see this, Diligent?
So first off, a couple things I'll lay the groundwork with beyond what you said. Jordan Addison is suspended, I think, the first 4 games of the year.
I heard
Uh,
it was three, but yeah,
it was a
three or
three. You
four.
might be right. So he's gonna be suspended for about 3 games. About the first month of the year, and then other
How
than
long
that,
will it take him to really hit the ground running when he comes back?
sure, yeah. And you also have a dynamic to build too with
Yeah.
JJ McCarthy and Jordan Addison that has never been built before.
Yep.
Um, and the interior of this offensive line, they completely rebuilt it. Donovan Jackson, who I didn't love that pick, but in terms of, he's still a good player. I think he's gonna have a good year. Ryan Kelly, Will Fries, you just really rebuilt up the entire interior of this offensive line. And then the one of the biggest things is, I mean, you mentioned TJ Hawkinson coming back. Christian Darrisaw is one of the best offensive tackles in the game, and he's going to be back this year. You got Brian O'Neill, who's one of the better right tackles in the league on the right side. This offensive line is going to be the best offensive line we've seen in Minnesota in probably decades. You put that in front of a quarterback who is removed from injury. A lot of these guys are coming back from injury. So that's going to be a big question mark. But what I do like about JJ McCarthy is someone who's a big fan of him coming out of Michigan. Uh, is that he's very efficient. So kind of think about this as this kind of a mixture between Brock Purdy and Joe Burrow, just in a diluted manner. Where
Okay.
you have this combination of efficiency, pocket maneuverability from Joe Burrow, and then you have this very um, I think he's someone that kind of requires this type of system where you have weapons around him in order to be able to succeed. That's what we saw in Michigan. And I think
Yeah.
that if he's able to just get some of these, if you can just throw these, have him within the first couple weeks, especially without Jordan Addison, just dial him in with these high percentage throws, try and get the running game going, build his confidence, then you actually have a fighting chance here of making a deep run. I don't think that's going to happen in year one for JJ McCarthy. I think that maybe year two I mean, obviously, I guess this is year two, but year one as a starter, I
Year
think
three
that,
is yeah, year two as a player,
yeah,
which would be year
year
three.
two as a player, uh, I think that's when we're going to really see this team start to draw into the JJ McCarthy era. But I think this is going to be a good team again. I think the defense is going to be pretty good like they were last year. I'd say that this team could be, 10-7, 11-6. This is going to be one of the lower seeded NFC playoff teams,
Definitely see them
probably.
taking some steps back.
Absolutely. They're gonna I don't think there's any way they don't take some steps back because you do have this rookie quarterback who does need to prove
Unproven,
himself.
unproven, and I will
Unproven
say,
off of injury.
yeah, unproven off of injury. And to your point, he's not a. I don't see him as a guy that's going to go out there and win you a lot of games like Josh Allen and Mahomes and
Sure.
Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
Some of these guys. He's more of a game manager, and I don't mean that in a bad way,
Brock
but
Purdy,
he's
man.
more of an. Well, who'd you say?
Brock Purdy.
Yeah, he's more of Brock Purdy, who I really like a lot. Just more of that efficient. You got to play within the system. McCarthy's out there to try not to lose games. He's not going to win games, but
Yeah.
also when you got Justin Jefferson, you have a chance. But
Exactly. I'll leave the
honestly,
door
that
open
guy's
for him.
deadly.
I'll
Yeah.
leave the door open for him because you do have, so many weapons and this is a well-built offense for your not rookie but second year quarterback, almost rookie quarterback. But just because of the structure of this team, I'm gonna leave the door a little cracked open for opportunity for them to make
Yeah.
a little bit of a run here. I don't think they're in any territory for Super Bowl, but
I don't
yeah,
think they're going 14-3 again. I don't see them in the conference championship. It may take a little while, but they're not. I don't expect them to just fall off the edge of the
yeah,
cliff either. All right. So now, and you already mentioned this team, but another one that I still consider this team a possible threat. If you consider them a true contender, you can let me know. The Detroit Lions. They were 15-2 last year, lost to the Commanders in the playoffs, which shocked a lot of people. Me, myself included, as a Commanders fan, they went into Detroit and won on the road in the playoffs. I was very happy and a little surprised, but Detroit, they got most of the core of that offense back. They've got one of the deadliest young running backs in the league in Jameer Gibbs, two solid receivers, a good young tight end, another kind of game manager quarterback, but Jared Goff, he's a darn good quarterback. They've got a lot of weapons coming back. Also, they did have a lot of injuries on defense last year. You talk about elite pass rushers. Aiden
Aiden
Hutchinson is right
Hutchinson.
up there. He's maybe a little bit below the Max Crosby, TJ Watt, uh, Miles Garrett range, but Aiden Hutchins is up there. So they got a lot of defensive guys coming back. The biggest thing I see is they lost both their offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator to head coaching position. So I, for that reason, I say they're a possible threat. What do you think, Dylan? Do you still consider them a serious contender? How do you
Yeah.
see Detroit this year?
So I do still see them as a like the bottom tier of series contenders. Um, reason being, and so I'm saying like basically like the fifth in terms of likelihood of making it to the Super Bowl
Okay.
and winning. Reason being is because they're the next best in the NFC. So it's could I mean I know we're factoring out injuries here, but the Eagles are one Jalen Hurts injury away from the Lions being the best team in the NFC, is what I would say. So that's why I sit here and I'm like, these are contenders, not necessarily because I think that they're obviously a fantastic team, but I'm not putting them here because I think they are ready to compete with, well, they're ready to compete, but
They're ready to compete. Yeah.
ready to defeat these other teams. I don't think they're there, but I think they're a contender by default because they are the next best. They're the next of kin behind the Eagles. Um, in the NFC, in my opinion. I know the Commanders are great. I don't know if they're quite ready for a Super Bowl. I feel like they're going to be similar territory to last year. But I'd argue the Lions are the next best team in the NFC. I think they have so much talent, and even though they did lose their coordinators, um, your substitution is lose my coordinators, but man, I mean, you brought it up earlier. Aiden Hutchinson's back. That's one of the best, not just defensive players in the league. That's one of the best players in the league at it,
Oh
at his
yeah,
peak.
he's a game
And
changing presence. There's no doubt.
it's even beyond what he does on the field. This guy energizes this team. He is one of these dudes that
Mhm.
makes you want to run through a wall. He has that type of energy. I also think this defensive backfield is going to take a step. They had some struggles last year, but you have a lot of young guys back there. It's led by Kirby Joseph, and now you bring in
That's
DJ Reed
true.
as well.
They got some good
So
young players. That is
you got
true.
Terry and Arnold, Brian Branch, and Emick Robinson. I think all
Yeah.
three of these dudes are like ready to take a jump here. I really loved Terry and Arnold coming out of school. I also was pretty high on Emick Robertson when he came out of school years back. But
Mhm.
but I think most of this defensive backfield is going to uh take a jump. And that's going to be pretty big because that allows them to continue to have this balanced, efficient like game plan on both sides of the field where you can just let your let your skill guys go to work and no strings attached. Let these guys just take care of business, and you're not under this pressure of trying to overcome these like you're not like the Bengals where you're trying to chase touchdowns. You're in this situation where you're trying to chase the next first down. And
Yeah.
that's what I love about this team it's less of this, oh, we're down big, we need to get back in the game. It is this stout team all the way around. Can we get the next first down? Okay, we got it. Can we get the next first down? Okay, we got it, and so on and so forth. That's what I
And
like
they've
about
got
this team.
such a balanced offense. They can play
Yeah.
a lot of styles. And Dan Campbell's a heck of a coach. You and I are pretty close in our assessments. I got him as the top level of the possible threats. You got him as the bottom level of the serious contenders. Any given day, I could see them. I could see them making it to the Super Bowl this year. It would not
Yeah.
be a huge shock. They're in the fight. It's just going to depend on a
Yeah.
lot of factors. All right, so now the teams I would call serious contenders. These are not necessarily in specific orders, but I'll just start with the Baltimore Ravens. They finished last season 12-5, lost to the Bills in the playoffs. No insult to the Bills, but that game really could have gone either way. It was a very close game. Two great teams. I'm going to go a little more in depth and tell me what you think. I would say the positives for Baltimore, some of their positives: longevity of the head coach. John Harbaugh is entering his 17th season as the head coach. Aging but still dominant running back in Derrick Henry. Solid duo of tight ends and Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. Very solid defense, not as great as some years, but still solid. And the biggest thing, probably Lamar Jackson, consistently has improved as a passer, and he's legitimately one of the greatest quarterbacks in the leagues now. I think he's past that idea of being just an athlete. He is an athlete, but he had over 4,000 yards and 41 touchdown passes last year against only 4 interceptions and still had 915 rushing. He is as good probably as any quarterback in the league. There's a few, I'm not saying he's undisputed. There's a few guys, but he's right up there with anybody. I would say they're negatives, and then I want to hear your feedback on all this as well. I'd say one of their biggest negatives is the lack of a downfield vertical threat in the passing game. Zay Flowers is good, but they don't, in my opinion, they don't really have a deep field stretcher threat. Lamar still puts up his numbers, but it's a lot of it's more intermediate. And just like Buffalo, they have to prove that they can beat the elite teams in the playoffs. Baltimore's been great, but I think them and Buffalo, who we'll get to in a moment, they got to prove that they deserve to be in the Super Bowl. They have not done that yet. So how do you feel about
Yeah.
Baltimore, Dillon?
So yeah, I agree with pretty much everything. And then in terms of the passing game, I personally do think they have some deep threats. I think they just don't use them the way that they should.
I mean,
Because
Rashad Bateman, you could put in that category. Maybe they start using that way
absolutely,
a lot.
Zay Flowers, when he was coming out of Boston College, I know he's a smaller dude, so he's not built like it, but when he was
Yeah.
in Boston College, they were just dialing him up sometimes. Like they would do the short ins and outs and here's a little, dump off, like just run now. But then they would just dial up this like just this corner route down the field, and he's 30, 40 yards down the field, catches it and goes. And they
He
haven't really
does
done
some
that
of
with
that
Zay.
still. He's just not a
He's
dominant
still
downfield presence. I mean,
he still does. I think that part of the lack of vertical game for this team though is schematic. And I wonder if we do tap into that though a little bit more because you mentioned earlier, obviously Derrick Henry is still top notch, but eventually he's got to take a step back, and whether that step back is maybe a 1,400-yard rushing season as opposed to a 2,000-yard season,
right, right.
then
Still one of the better
but that
running
still
backs.
means
Yeah.
there's 600 yards there to fill in, So,
Keaton
uh,
Mitchell can make up for that when he's healthy.
oh, hey, I mean,
He's one of
he had a
my
decent
favorite
rookie year, yeah.
underrated players. He's a man. I love Keaton Mitchell. Anyway, let's
But
not to get too far off track, but yeah.
yeah, I think that this team's going to be this is you could maybe make the argument that this is a third best team in the league.
Oh
Um
yeah, I think you
and
can.
I just worry about, I know the Chiefs keep getting there. I mean, I know we're going to talk about the Chiefs in a second, but I know the Chiefs have been to 3 straight Super Bowls. I know that still some people have some more question marks with this team than with the Chiefs than before because of the, aging aspect of that dynasty. But there's just such a feared nature to the Chiefs that I have a hard
Yeah,
time. I know eventually the Ravens have got to break through. They're just bound to, and they're bound to break through and make it to the Super Bowl. But I guess it's kind of a until I see it, I don't know if I can bet on it.
that's
I
my
just
point.
think
They
the
have to
Chiefs
prove it.
they have to prove it. It's
Yeah,
something that I can't at this point in time say the Ravens are they're gonna be the best team in the AFC all the way through the playoffs. They're going to make
until
it to
they
the
can
Super
knock
Bowl.
Kansas City out of the playoffs,
Until
I
they can do
cannot
that,
say that. Yeah,
that goes for the Bills as well because the Bills
yeah,
are in
and we'll get to
the
we'll
same
get to the
spot.
Bills, but same thing.
Yeah.
Both those guys, and I have to wonder how psychological it's becoming too. Man, we
Oh yeah.
just can't get past Kansas City. We
Yeah.
can't get. We believe every year we're going to beat them, and we still don't. At a certain point,
Yeah.
that either motivates you or it just psychs you out to where it
Sure.
becomes a bigger obstacle. So sounds like we're pretty close on Baltimore. Let's go ahead and talk about Buffalo. They did finish 13-4 last year. Lost, I think it was a 3-point game to the Chiefs in the AFC Championship.
Hmm.
Positives, in my opinion, they have to be hungry for a Super Bowl. You've got to think, kind of like we're talking about, depends on how it goes, but they have to be getting hungry. Each of the past few seasons, they're one of the favorites to get there, and they just haven't done it. So I will call it a positive if it's motivating them. The hunger surely has to be there. Also, Josh Allen is legitimately one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He can take over a game at any given point with his arm or with his legs. He's shown it many, many times. So that's to me, he's a Josh Allen injury. They're not even a playoff contender, but as long as he's healthy, they're a serious threat. The negatives, just like we are talking about with Baltimore, they have to prove they can do it. They can't. In order for me to say they can win a Super Bowl, they have to get there. They have to get past Baltimore and Buffalo have to get past each other and both get past
Yeah.
Kansas City. And I'm not saying that they can't do it. As good as Kansas City has been, yeah, Baltimore and Buffalo could beat them in the playoffs, but until it happens, it hadn't happened. So,
Yeah.
how do you feel about it, Diligent?
Well, first off, I'll start off with saying we just talked about one quarterback, but now I think these are the two best quarterbacks right now, Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. I think because, and I say that particularly because Patrick Mahomes has been more situational than anything. So I'd argue Mahomes is most feared at this point. But these
Yeah.
past two teams we're talking about, as of right now, statistically and just in terms of their ability to make the splash plays, I think these are the two best quarterbacks at this exact moment. Doesn't mean I would pick them over Mahomes because of Mahomes' situational ability, uh,
Yeah, he's got a lot of intangibles too. But anyway, go ahead.
but yeah, we do have another team that is just this guy is special. This is a Hall of Fame. This is gonna be a Hall of Fame quarterback, and with or without a ring, he's gonna be a Hall of Fame quarterback whenever he retires.
Yeah.
Uh, I Yeah, I think that this is again a good team. I think that they were able to make some moves here to build this team up. I mean, it is weird how this receiver room is built. It's kind of this receiver by committee. They're
It
really
really
hoping,
is. They don't have a star
yeah, I
receiver
think they're
right
really
now.
hoping Keon Coleman takes that jump though,
Yeah.
which he didn't really show enough last year. I thought he showed enough at Florida State for me to be like, whenever he was coming out of school for me, I really liked him.
There's a
Um,
possibility. Yeah.
I think that that's on the table this year. This defense, um, they brought in Joey Bosa, they brought in Trey White, they
Yeah.
brought in Max Harrison. I liked Max Harrison. Um, I think that you're going to have a really good cornerback room between Christian Benford, who's really underrated, Trey White's back, Taron Johnson, Max Harrison. I think that's a really good crew, just one that doesn't ring a lot of bells in terms of namesake.
Yeah.
Um, the pass rush is going to be really good. Greg Russo, Joey Bosa, Daquan Jones, who's underrated, Ed Oliver. I mean, you have some good depth there as well. AJ Epinesa, TJ Sanders, Deion Walker, Landon Jackson, who I loved coming out
Yeah.
of Arkansas last year.
So,
Javon Solomon is another name. They have their pass rush room is just built off of guys that I loved coming out of school. I love these guys coming out of college. I loved Ed Oliver. I mean, everyone did, but Greg Russo, I was high on this entire, almost this entire room. So I love to see that they kind of built their defensive line the way I would if I was in their shoes. Just bunch of guys that were draft darlings for me. Um, so you're looking at again another stout team in the trenches. I think this offensive line's a little underrated too. You have one of the best offensive tackles in the game, Deion Dawkins,
yeah.
and a couple of like B plus type of offensive linemen elsewhere on that offensive line. Um, yeah, I just don't know if we're quite there yet to get over the hump with the Chiefs. It could be the year, it might not. It's the same situation.
Yeah.
Just like we said with the Ravens, I got to see it. This is something where it's like I hear people every year they're like, "Oh yeah, this is going to be the year the Bills get to the Super Bowl or this is going to be the year the Ravens get to the Super Bowl." And it's like we've been doing this for 5 years where
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like it's the same thing over and
Ever
over
since
again.
Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson have had 2 or 3 years in the league, this has been the
Yep,
talk. And I
this has
get
been the
it,
same
but
conversation.
yeah,
Exactly. I get it. I understand it. And
we got to see it.
if we're Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson have got to get there at some point, but we're not talking about them versus some team. We're talking about like aliens. We're talking about an alien in Patrick Mahomes. He just figures it out. And
Well, you got
and
one of the greatest
that's
coaches
where
of all time on the sideline.
you
You've
have
got
one of the you
the
have
legendary.
not even one of you have a guy that is at this point making an argument to be one of the top 5 coaches ever.
Oh yeah,
And
I think
then you
so too.
have a guy that is going to be retiring as probably the second best player in NFL history in Patrick Mahomes. You have arguably the best tight end in history. You just have these guys,
Top three tight end, I'd say.
they
Yeah,
don't
he's top two or
fig
three.
yeah, I'd say he's behind Gonzalez and Gronk,
Yeah.
but
Don't forget
but
Jason Witten. You're the
at the end of the
Cowboys
day,
fan, and I got to remind you
yeah.
about Jason Witten.
Um at the end of the day, it's really just this matter of we're not talking about these teams in the same light as we are with the NFC. The NFC doesn't have this bully. I
It's
mean, the
more
Eagles are
wide
great.
open. Yeah.
It's way more wide open. The AFC has a bully that is
Well,
just
yeah.
they're
Baltimore and
noogies
Buffalo.
and just yeah they are these guys, the Chiefs are stuck taking these guys lunch money every year, and it's just not fair, but that's how it is. So
Well, but I'll say the Baltimore and Buffalo, the talent is there, but you got to go out and prove it. The king of the hill
yeah,
is the king of the hill for a reason. Until you knock them
100%.
off, you're just a great team knocking on the door. All
Sure.
right, just got a few more teams left. We'll go and talk about You knew this was coming. My favorite team, the Washington Commanders. You may not consider them serious contenders, and I'll admit they're borderline. It depends on how they build on last season. They did finish 12-5, got the rear ends kicked pretty good in the NFC Championship by the Eagles. I would say their positives is they far exceeded their expectations
Oh yeah,
last season. They went
they're ahead of schedule,
they went
way
from
ahead of
being
schedule.
4-13 to being 12-5. Uh, Cliff Kingsbury is still there. He got some head coaching interest for some other teams. He's still with them. They made some nice offseason moves in acquiring Debo Samuel, Laramie Tunzel, drafted Josh Conley Jr., uh, Trey Amos, and they added Von Miller. He's not the Von Miller of 6 years ago, but he's still a pass
Sure.
rusher. And the number one positive you already know is Jaden Daniels. I think he's already an elite quarterback. I know he's only played 1 year. If the young man stays healthy, I've got tremendous confidence in him, maybe more than most people do, but that comes with being a fan of him. I've got confidence to the roof and beyond in what he can do when he's healthy. Negatives, I would say, just like we've been saying, they have to prove they can do it. If they're only 1 2 years removed from being a basement level team. Okay, so was last year an anomaly? Are they going to build on that? They've got a lot to prove. Just reaching the conference championship is great. Can they go beyond that? The defense is decent, but they do struggle at times to stop the run, and they got to improve on pressuring the quarterback. There was talk of Myles Garrett, then he re-signed with the Browns. There was talk of trying to do a trade for Trey Hendrickson. None of that has happened. They brought Von Miller in. That's an area where they got to improve. And then uh, they also did not get a top pass rusher in the draft. So there's a
And
lot
you
of
lost your top sack getter in Dante Fowler.
you lost Dante Fowler. And the biggest thing, as of this recording, Terry McLaurin still doesn't have a new contract. You got to get
Yeah,
that worked out. If you weren't going to re-sign him, and then I'll kick it over to you. I understand that he'll be turning 30 in September. I understand you might not want to pay him at this point. You're in a Super Bowl window right now. If you weren't going to pay him because of his age, you should have gotten this worked out sooner. You should have maybe traded for
sure.
DK
Yeah,
Metcalf. You should have maybe who else was even signing Cooper Cup, who was a free agent. You should have traded up and you should have drafted Jaden Higgins. There should have been some other plan in place because as great as Jaden Daniels is, without his biggest weapon to throw to, I'm not saying they can't still succeed. I think Jaden can find ways to still move the ball, but you take a guy with 4.38 speed who's had 5 straight 1,000 yard seasons out of the equation. I don't know if I can call him a serious contender at that point. Where I
absolutely.
already admit they're borderline to even be called serious. Depends on how they build. They don't re-sign McLaurin or get another top tier receiver in a trade for McLaurin. There's a
Yeah.
whole lot of more questions. So how do you see them this year, Diligent?
I'm just going to start this off by giving a shout out to their GM, Adam Peters. He has
Yeah,
done a fantastic job
I
rebuilding this
concur.
team. Just phenomenal how quick this team has flipped
How
around.
quick the turnaround was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so and I am 100% in agreement with Terry McLaurin with the situation with Terry McLaurin. That has to get resolved. If he is
It
not on this
stresses me
team,
out every day.
if he is not on this team next year, y'all will make the playoffs, y'all will be 10-7, 11-6.
Or
You're
taking
not
steps
gonna
backwards
you're not gonna win a
versus
Super Bowl without him. You're not. And but on the other end of that spectrum, I guess just regarding the team in specific, the rest of the team in specific, the offensive line looks really great. I'm excited to see this offensive line. You bring in Laramie Tunsil, Brandon Coleman's probably gonna move over to left guard. Tyler Biadasz is solid.
yeah,
Uh, big thing here, other than bringing in Josh Connerly, a first round pick, probably gonna start at right tackle. Big thing
both of
is
them.
Sam Cosme's getting
It's me.
back. This is one of the better guards in the league. He doesn't
Oh
get the
yeah.
credit for it, but
When he went
he
down,
missed
I was
all of
like,
last
oh
year.
gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. He missed all last year. You're getting, that offensive line is all of a sudden one of the best offensive lines in the league, actually. Like,
Sam
and
Cosmi
that's not a
makes a big
stretch.
difference. His presence alone
Yeah.
makes a big difference.
Yeah, because you are getting, I mean, you have one of the better tackles in the league in Laramie Tunsil. You have Josh Connerly, who has a lot of
There's a
potential. I
lot of
mean,
potential in tackle. Yeah.
I didn't love that pick, but I like that pick. And you bring
I
in
was the
Sam
same way.
Cosmi back, where you get one of the best guards in the that's one of the best guards in the league. You get him back. Tyler Beadash, he's a
Be honest, he's
B
one of the
plus
better
center.
centers in the league too. Yeah, he's
You Brandon Coleman's good. I thought he had a good rookie year last year. Obviously a lot of weapons, assuming Terry McLaurin does that gets hashed out.
yeah.
Obviously you have the quarterback. Defensively, the big thing here, you just need to be better at stopping the run. I think that is beyond what you have personnel wise. I think Dan Quinn just neglects the run in his defense. We've seen that since his Cowboys days. I mean, we saw that in Atlanta
We'll say
too.
maybe even going back to the Falcons. Yeah.
You could probably go back to, I mean, even in Seattle, back in the day in Legion of Boom days, you're talking about a defense that was the best in pass coverage, the best in pass rush,
Running
and
down the
they
pass.
were
Yeah.
solid at run defense. That's kind of how that was. So this has
It's
been
kind of
something
been his
that
focus. Yeah.
it has been his focus. It's who he is, and so I'm not expecting this run defense to be fantastic, but it needs to be better. It does need to be better. So
Yeah. They can't
hopefully
just be
that's the
getting
case.
gassed over and over. That you're putting too much pressure
Yeah,
on risk on stopping the pass and on your
yeah,
offense. So
yeah,
even without McLaurin, like you said, that Jaden is his mental processing, his ability to throw the deep ball, his athleticism. They'll move the ball because he'll hit Zach Ertz for some passes. Don't forget Austin Eckler's not what he used to be, but he's still a capable receiver. He'll get the ball to him.
yeah,
Hopefully Ben Sinanot will make some leaps and get some more playing time. Jalen Lane's a young, fast guy. They've they've got some guys to get the ball to, but Terry McLaurin's a
sure,
game changer. So
yeah.
without him, this is a different discussion for sure. And then the final two teams we've got to talk about. If you know anything about the NFL, you already know who they're going to be. Defending AFC champions and Super Bowl runner-up Kansas City Chiefs, 15-2 in the regular season. That final game, they didn't care. The rest of their starters, they could have easily been 16-1. Positives, they have done this before. They've won 3 Super Bowls in the Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes era. Uh, we've already said a lot of this. One of the one of the absolute greatest coaches in NFL history with Andy Reid. One of the greatest quarterbacks currently, and I think will go down as one of the greatest quarterbacks ever. I think you could already, even if his career ended today, he's a legendary quarterback career wise. Aging, but still very reliable weapon in Travis Kelsey. And they got a solid trio of receivers. A lot of it's about health and lack of experience, but Marquise Brown, Rashee Rice, and Xavier Worthy, definitely a solid trio. They've got an above average defense. Backfield, there's some questions about Pacheco's health, but they did add Elijah Mitchell and Brashard Smith, who I'm a big fan of. So they've got a lot of positives, a lot of things going for them. The negatives, I'll say, they've now got to prove that they're the best team in the league. There's this assumption that they just were until Philadelphia went out and beat them. So I will say there's a little bit of, hey, we've got to regain that now. We've got to show people that we actually are still the best team in the league. And, Kelsey is another year older, probably going to slow down a little bit more. He's still good. And then Rashi's pending suspension. And then Pacheco, Marquise, and Rashii all coming off of injuries. So there are some question marks there. A lot more positives than negatives, I think. But Diligent, how do you feel about the Chiefs? Are they as mighty as they have been? Was last year an indication that Philadelphia has really truly turned the corner on them? How do you
Are
see?
they as mighty as they may have been? No. Um, do they need to be? No. I mean, it's just it. I don't think it really matters about. I mean, I guess it matters to a degree, but in terms of is it something that will handcuff them from winning a Super Bowl? The fact that they're aging on offense, no. I
I
mean,
don't think so. Those are
it's
factors, but they're not kicking
these
the
are
can.
things where I think we're starting to figure out something that we never figured out with Tom Brady, which is it doesn't matter who's around this type of quarterback. They just, and it doesn't even matter if they have a year where there were some years in Brady's career where the numbers weren't there. It didn't matter though. He still figured it out. And those numbers were largely in part because you didn't have the weapons that you did before.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes just figures stuff out. I think we're starting to get a little bit of a feel for that. He just knows he is, if there's one trait about Patrick Mahomes that you can like no like everything off the table, everything aside about Patrick Mahomes, one thing that's like this is something we need to know about him is that he's a problem solver. He knows how to figure things out before the play, during the play, and after the play. He knows how to
Innovative and very
make it
good at
happen.
improvising and just like you said,
Absolutely.
figuring out ways, whether it's throwing a sidearm pass,
Yeah.
scrambling for a timely
Yeah.
first down, even if he only has 8 yards rushing and he's better than that. But let's say he only has 8 yards rushing in a game. It might be on a 3rd and 3 where he runs for 8 yards and seals the game. Like
Exactly.
he's
That's the
got
thing.
such
Yeah.
great his instincts are the top
Mm.
of the game.
Oh, no one's open. I'll figure it out anyways. I
Oh
don't need
well.
anyone to be open.
Yeah.
I'll make the tightest, you know,
I'll make a
uh
throw that
yeah,
nobody
I'll
thinks
make
anybody can make.
yeah, I will throw one of the most unbelievable passes that I
I'll
probably
start to
shouldn't throw. It's a
scramble and
little
catch you not
irresponsible. I
looking
don't
and
care. I'm
dump
going
it
to do
off.
it.
I mean, yeah, he's just
That's another thing that you got to love about Mahomes. And that ties into the problem solving is that he has these he'll throw the irresponsible throws, but he knows when to throw the irresponsible throws. And that's something that brings this team into these if it's I mean, we figured this out last year where it's not maybe this team's not going to go out there and win by 30 points like they would before, but they're going to go out there, they're going to get game on the line. They're always going to figure out how to make this thing a game, and they will put Mahomes on the spot. And there's like, and they'll be like, okay, Mahomes, go win us the game. There's no one else in the league that I would
if the
rather
game's on the
have than
line and
Mahomes.
they have the ball. I mean, the other team, you can never be comfortable
Yeah,
as long as there's time on the clock. It's just like with Brady. We know
exactly.
what Patrick Mahomes can
Yeah,
do, and he's just. I mean, we'll move
yeah,
on to the Eagles here in a
sure.
moment, but Mahomes, yeah, as long as there's time on the clock,
You better believe he'll figure
he's
it out.
got confidence that most people probably shouldn't have, but it's because he has proven it. He knows what he can do and what that team can do.
Sure.
So the only other
Eh,
team to talk about now is the defending Super Bowl champions, Philadelphia Eagles, 14-3 last year. Kind of went under the radar. Everybody's talking about Detroit and Minnesota and Kansas City. So, and you look up at the end of the year, at least I think they were a sneaky 14-3 a little bit last year. Uh Positives, arguably the best offensive line in the NFL. There may not be too much argument.
Yeah, I don't think
Same,
there's an argument.
yeah, I was gonna say arguably it's
Well,
very
I guess the
loose.
Lions give the next best push for that.
Yeah, but I definitely elite, if not the best offensive line. Same nucleus of offensive talent as last season with Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goddard. Top tier defense, especially in terms of pressuring opposing quarterbacks at front seven. And then the negatives, I mean, the first one, I would say this about anybody. It's very difficult to repeat as Super Bowl champions. That's why only 9 teams have done it in history. So there is a danger of falling into complacency as other teams grow hungrier. You talked about the Rams a while ago. I talked about are the Commanders going to make that step. Philadelphia hasn't necessarily improved. They may not need to as much, but other teams might get hungrier. And there's always a risk of injury to anybody, but especially with all the usage Saquon had last year, Do they run him into the ground this year? Do they try to manage his touches? Will managing his touches take him out of offense enough to make him more vulnerable? There's a lot. I'm not saying it will. I don't know. But anytime a running back has that much usage, they typically aren't as good the following year. Look at McCaffrey's history. Look at Derrick Henry when he had his 2,000-yard season. I think he got hurt the next year. There's
Yeah.
always questions when somebody gets that many touches. But
Yeah.
having said all that, Diligent, how do you feel about the Eagles this season?
So I'll I'll say something up front. When you signed your running back to a 2-year, $41.2 million contract extension, which is the highest paid running back in NFL history, they are not, so they're gonna run into the ground. They don't care. They're like, you got all this money, buddy. You got to tough it out. So he's gonna, you better believe that he is gonna be sore
Oh
on a
yeah.
week in, week out basis. This dude's gonna get beat up, but I don't think he minds. That's the thing about him. He's one of those aliens in the NFL that's like
I
he
think
just,
he's very happy to be playing behind a good offensive line after all those
oh,
years of
for
being one. He's
sure,
probably
for
like,
sure,
yes, give me the ball again. This is actually fun.
absolutely. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't see much of a reason why this team wouldn't be at a bare minimum a conference championship team again. There's not much of a reason. I guess if there was a reason, it would be because of his division of their division is you have the Commanders and I don't think the Cowboys I think the Cowboys are going to be a fringe playoff team this year. That's, I think they'll go 10-7, 11-6.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have a
Maybe 3-14. We'll see.
oh, I don't know, but I hope not, man. Please
I
no.
couldn't resist just stabbing you with that
This has
one.
been a tough year for me. I need the Cowboys to show up
Hey,
a little bit.
maybe
Um,
Jaden Blue will take over the league, and let's just wait and
Maybe
see.
Hey man, I kind of like the fact that a Cowboys running back is gonna have blue on their back on their
There is
yeah, on
that.
their nameplate. So that'll be kind of cool. But yeah, I mean, I think that the only thing that could handcuff this team is if the prospect of being in one of the better divisions in the league right now, and the Giants, I think they made some improvements. They're not
Some
going to be a playoff team.
improvements.
Giants are going to be
No,
a lot more competitive though. They're going to
hey, you added Abdul Carter, and then you added some other pieces for the future, so they're going to be
absolutely.
they
Yeah,
they are improving, but they're not a
they're
threat right now.
improving. They're okay. They're going to be decent this year. I think they're going to be a slightly below average team instead of this rollover team, and that'll make them competitive in these games.
They're
So
climbing, possibly.
so I I don't see much of a reason why this team won't be back in at least conference championship. But yeah, I mean this is a good team. You have all the way around you have talent. There's not a position on this
Yeah,
roster that it's like, what are we gonna do? I mean, honestly, for it is weird, but for the first time ever, that edge rush room is a little thinned out. I mean, the interior of that defensive line is the probably the best in the league,
yeah, I'd
but
say they probably are.
but like you're now at edge rush wise, you're at Nolan Smith, who you're hoping takes a big jump this year. Jalix Hunt, like those are starters for you now. Aziz Ojolari,
Yeah,
Antoine Powell, Ryland, Moro Ojomo, like these are guys that are going to get a lot of reps for you.
rotational players
Um,
here.
these are yeah, and though like some of those are your starters, some of those are that's what their depth chart looks like. Josh Uche, like that's a little questionable, but they'll figure out how to get by. They're gonna figure out how to scheme that up and make that defensive line just take care of business. But again, this is a good team, and they'll find a way. That this is a team that just will find a way.
I mean, they've got all those weapons coming back. Uh Biggest thing is just they've gotten to the top. Now they got to prove they can stay there. And there's teams, obviously I'd love to see Washington get past them, but until it happens,
Sure.
it hadn't happened. So I mean, yeah, we'll wait and see. But I think they are there's no reason to doubt that they could be back and that they could repeat as Super Bowl champions. That's not a prediction. I'm just saying, to your point,
Sure.
there's
Yeah.
every reason to say they're just as serious. a threat as they have been. Well, Diligent, we're about to land the plane on this. Do you have any closing thoughts on the outlook for the season? Any teams we missed that you think deserve to be talked about?
No, I mean that was the majority. I guess I'd shout out the Packers and Texans. I just
They're a little bit further on the outside, but they're not bad teams.
I I'd argue the Texans are in the second tier here of what we're talking about, just because I gotta believe Stroud takes gets back on pace. But otherwise, I mean, I think we just about covered it. This is majority of what the playoff picture next year is probably going to look like, with the exception of some, dark horse teams that are
Yeah.
gonna, they're gonna jump in here and probably not really be able to compete with the majority of these teams that we talked about today. But this is pretty much what I mean in the most for a league that is extremely unpredictable. I think that we did a good job of kind of narrowing it down. So these are the teams that we can kind of
Major
predict are
contenders,
going to
yeah.
be contenders and be in the mix. So
I think so too. So, all right. Hope you all enjoyed the episode. Thank you for stopping by. If you did like it, please show that by clicking the like button. If you've not already done so, please do subscribe to the channel. It'll help enable me to bring you more of this type of content as well as many other types. So, for Diligent Jewett, I am Jared Johnson, the Jared J. Thank you all so much for stopping by. Hope you all have a great week, and I hope I see you again real soon. Yeah, I don't know if